Welcome to another episode of the Bug Bite hosted by yours truly, Tech Coach Ralph, where we are engineered to win. In last week's episode, we spoke about can what you watch on YouTube land you in prison? So it was a story about I think it was the FBI maybe requesting watch data. I think it was a story about the government requesting information from YouTube about who watched a particular live stream between a particular timestamp. So, in this week's episode, we are going to be talking about something that pushes it a little bit further along about can social media companies or should social media companies be allowed to be sued for the content they put on their platform, even if that content is not illegal, but maybe a little bit insensitive. So, let's jump into our show. All right. So, today's article is brought to us by freepress.net, and the title is Judge Allows Buffalo Shooting Case to Proceed to Merits, Rejects Social Media Companies' Claims of Immunity under Section 230. So, I am by no means a lawyer at all, nor do I know exactly what Section 230 is. But from a technological perspective, we can break this down about social media companies and should they be allowed to be sued for for the content that is placed on their platform and what people might end up doing due to that content that somebody else may have created. All right. So let's get to it. This article was written on March 20th, 2024, and by Timothy Carr, who also put his phone number in here. But let's continue. So let's start off. It says, on Monday, a New York state judge denied a motion to dismiss a lawsuit against several social media companies that alleges that platforms including 4chan, Facebook, Reddit, and YouTube helped incite a gunman who killed 10 people in an anti-Black attack at a grocery store in Buffalo, New York in 2022. The judge ruled that the plaintiffs, who are relatives of some of those murdered in the attack, may proceed with their lawsuit, which claims that social media companies profit from racist, anti-Semitic, and violent material displayed on their platform to maximize user engagement. So the question is, well, is this statement true? That do these social media companies profit from racist, anti-Semitic, violent material displayed on their platforms to maximize user engagement? Well, that depends on, because I've heard from many different content creators that a lot of their videos can get easily demonetized based on some of the content that might, some of the things that they might say, whether it's racist or anti-Semitic, things like that. So, and if a video gets demonetized, then that means that there would be no advertisements that are passing through those videos, meaning that the split between the social media company and the user would be nothing because there's no ads running, so there's nothing on there. So, but the question is, which now the question goes to, well, should this like content that is racist, anti-Semitic, violent, even be allowed to be on the platform at all? And also, who determines this, right? So it's many questions that it raises. The complaint cites that as an example, time the gunman spent on viewing material about the racist Great Replacement theory on these platforms. Free Press has repeatedly warned social media companies that hosting and promoting content related to the Great Replacement theory Free Press has repeatedly warned social media companies that hosting and promoting content related to the Great Replacement theory, a far-right white supremacist conspiracy theory that people of color are being brought to the United States to replace white voters and exact a political agenda, is leading to political violence in real life. Free Press has urged platforms to restrict access to this content or to, at a minimum, stop promoting it. And I guess my question would be okay, what is determine, how do we determine what means to promote it? Is it that if somebody searches for it, so if an individual user searches for this content and they find it, Does that mean that because it shows up in the search results that it's being promoted, or is the user finding exactly what they want, no matter how reprehensible it might be? And the question is, if something does lead to, like, regardless of political, if it leads to any type of violence, is the content that is found, like, is the content that is consumed responsible for what someone decides to do in their individual life? Like, because any type of violence is wrong, but is it because that the information that the person found, or is it because that they had it in their hearts in the first place? So, that's another question. It is interesting though that the website called, like, the website called Free Press is urging people to restrict their content. But, that's a whole nother story. All right. The social media company defendants have argued that they are shielded from the liability under Section 230 of the Communications Act, 47 USC 230. The plaintiffs acknowledge these statutory protections and instead argue that the platform's own products, not the third-party information from content providers they host, are defective and drove the gunman to commit his acts of violence. The judge has allowed the case to proceed to the merits of the product liability claim. So, and this type of argument, I'm very curious what's going to happen, because there's going to be a lot of pain and emotion running through this case. And if it's a jury trial, I mean, in New York, even if it's a judge trial, who knows what can happen? But this is what I wonder about this, right? If there's a platform for people to put content, like we're on YouTube, we put content about you know quality assurance, technology, web development, things of that nature. And if someone says that the information that is being put out is, like, wrong, like factually wrong, does that mean that the platforms have an obligation to remove it, or is the obligation for alternative content creators to provide why the information that's being put out is wrong and what is the correct solution? So it's a very interesting case that's going to be moving forward here. So, Free Press Reparative Journal, reparative, I'm not sure what that means, but Free Press Reparative Journalism Program Manager Diamond Hardiman said, "We are pleased to see this case proceed, and we demand accountability for the lives lost due to the prolific promotion of racist content online. From the Tulsa Race Massacre in 1921 to the Buffalo shooting a little over 100 years later, our media systems has long failed to account for the harms their practices inflict on Black lives. The Buffalo shooting was horrific, racially motivated act inspired by the gunman's time on social media platforms like 4chan, Facebook, and Reddit. His online radicalization, as the plaintiffs in this case allege, spun up his desire to act. We extend our deepest care and solidarity to the victims' families and hope these steps towards accountability provide some solace. And we call on all platforms to undertake process for long-range redress and repair of the harms they are inflicting on our society. It's urgent that these companies take measure to address their products' roles in the perpetuation of racial violence." And Free Press co-CEO Jessica J. Gonzalez said, "Allowing this case to proceed is a major step towards reining in harmful social media practices that lead to real-world violence. For too long, social media companies have evaded accountability, in the court's words, negligently, defectively, and harmfully designing products that drive users to materials that may entice or incite violence. Free Press believes that Section 230 plays an important role in protecting social media companies' ability to moderate content and take down third-party content that violates their terms of services. These are the First Amendment's rights of those companies. However, we believe that tech companies can and should be held liable when knowingly continue to distribute content and have knowledge of the harm it causes. This case is an opportunity to test how we can hold platforms accountable for their roles they play in inciting violence." So what I am curious about is who or what is going to be the arbiter of what is allowed to be like what is what falls within the bounds of what social media should take down and what social media should allow to be up. Because, like I said, like these are platforms that people are able to upload content to, and and there's a difference between like telling someone to go do something and and provide an opinion. Like a call to action is different than saying this is what you think about something. So it's going to be very strange because it's a thin line because here's the deal. When different people start to make the rules, and it's usually like who comes into power is who's going to be making the rules, and who's to say like at some point someone can't say about the whichever like whatever topic is being talked about that this is harmful and it must be taken down. And so it's just very interesting like how the evil that people do, because I mean part of free speech would be like if you have bad ideas and evil ideas and you share it, should you not be allowed to share how even how reprehensible your ideas may be? Should you be silenced to it? So that's a question. And being that the First Amendment is the First Amendment, it's very interesting how that's going to go. Now, if the platforms are the ones who are responsible for the actual content that they put out, that means they would have to employ all of their content creators to say yes or no. So it's going to be very interesting. And then when we see these other social media companies that are popping up because they might say, oh, YouTube is very restrictive or Facebook is very restrictive. But here's the thing. Now you also become at risk of being liable in these type of lawsuits as well. If let's say you are here to counter YouTube's or Facebook's or Reddit's or whoever's restrictive policies, but as we can see right here, there's a lawsuit going on right now where the judge said, although you guys are platforms and there is free speech, but we can charge you for other people being allowed to exercise their free speech on your platform. So it's going to be very, very interesting. All right, so let's finish this up. So a background: free press action has long fought for preserving the core tenets of free expression through Section 230 of the Communications Act. The organization filed a brief for the U.S. Supreme Court and testified before Congress about the need to preserve Section 230. Free press also fights for media reparations through its Media 2070 project, and the organization advances innovative legal claims to develop winning arguments, including Vargas versus Facebook ruling that platforms are responsible for their own conduct that results in algorithmic discrimination. So I mean that is the article. I am curious. Go back to full screen. I'm curious to know what your thoughts about this. Do you think that the social media companies should be liable for the content that individuals put on their platforms, or is it their duty to become publishers and start to censor, and start to say who can be on their platforms and who cannot? I mean, for to a certain extent, they do that. If it's depending on what is being said by a particular person and how they, if it's like calling to actually harm, like if the information is if someone wants to follow this information, if it's actually going to harm the person, then like I've seen like different social media companies like ban people from their platforms and things like that. But for the most part, it's pretty open. So I just wonder if it becomes like a lot more restrictive on what is supposed to be a public platform, a public square. Could they be, in that case, sued in the other direction, saying that, oh, this is no longer an open platform, but it is, you have to talk these talking points in order to be on here. But then at the same time, when we have these new places open up so people can go speak their mind, then you are also open to lawsuits like in this case. So it's going to be a very interesting battlefield, because we've seen a bunch of different social media sites open up for free speech, but at the same time, a judge is allowing these social media sites to be sued for what can be seen or claimed to be free speech by individuals. So the social media sites are now being sued for what individuals have put on their platforms, not what they have published on a publisher's site, because like that's different, but on what's been put on a open platform. So very, very interesting what's going to be going on. I mean, it's very similar to the use of tools. Like anything is a tool. So like it says, you can use a hammer to knock in a nail, or you can use it to knock someone over the head. With same thing goes with firearms. Like the law enforcement, people who want to protect their homes, people who go to war and everything like that, they have firearms. But at the same time, when somebody does something terrible with a firearm, then instead of like putting the blame on that person, then they try to go after maybe the firearm manufacturer or the company who builds ammunition, when they're not the ones who are selling it directly to someone who knows that they shouldn't have it. Why are I haven't really heard that they go after the person, or like, so let's say someone who shouldn't have a firearm gets one, and like, so do they go after the person that they got it from, and then do they go after the person who sold it to the person that they got it from, and then, but it's like, oh, let's go for the manufacturers to get them where it hurts. So it's just very like, it's just very like murky waters, very tricky on these different type of topics, where we are going after we're going after the person who actually made the tool, and then because we want to add additional blame, because someone must be held accountable. But the question is, are we holding the right people accountable for the evil that is being done? Do you blame the tool manufacturer for the improper way the tool was used, or do you blame the person who actually used the tool improperly? So that is something that is, I'm very curious to know what your thoughts are about this. Do you think, like, I mean, I haven't even really shared an opinion in general, but I'm just curious, like, what do you think? Do you think that they should be held liable? Do you think it should be solely on the person who commits the act, or the people involved that commits the acts? Or do you think they should go after the actual content creators who are putting out this content, instead of going after the actual platform? Should they go after the actual content creator who is putting these ideas into the mind of these individuals who do commit these horrific acts? So, so many questions that come up based off this lawsuit. I'm very curious to see how it's going to go. If the social media companies are going to be held liable, I have a feeling that because it's a jury trial in New York, it's very highly likely that there's how it's going to go. But we shall see. Anyhow, I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Do me a huge favor on your way out. Go ahead and like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you can know every single time that we go live. And if you need additional exclusive content, go over to www.techcoachralph.dev, where you can get additional tech content to help you level up to the next step. All right. But on that note, this is Tech Coach Ralph, and we are out.
If you enjoyed the fascinating information shared in this video and you want more, be sure to hit the subscribe button to Tech Coach Ralph to be notified for new videos.
Enigmatic Joker.